Hey there, thanks for joining me. Today, our goal is to give you a few actionable strategies that you can start implementing today to help you improve your business communications. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. But before we get started, make sure that you go and grab the workbook that goes with this training. You'll find that it will help you internalize and personalize everything that we're covering today, and it's going to be a good resource for moving forward. So you can come back to it even after the training and start using it to help you implement the strategies that we discussed today. So go ahead and go grab that. I think a really good and helpful place to start is with some context, right? So when we talk about business communications, communications in general, communications is a vehicle, and you have, just like a car, you have a lot of different roads and highways and whatnot that you can take to get from your starting point to your destination. And with communications in business, generally, we want to get as quickly and easily and efficiently from point A to point B. We want to not waste our time, not waste time of the audience that we're trying to communicate with, right? But sometimes you get little roadblocks or, there's detours or something that prevents you from getting as straight away to your destination as possible. So we're going to address this kind of pain today and try to give you some ways to roadmap your alternate paths so that you can drive to your destination, be on your journey in a much more efficient and effective way and end up being more successful. So just maybe even pause the recording right now and just take a few moments to reflect on your own experiences with communicating in your business, challenges that you've had in communicating, not even just in business, but in life, and think about the upstream and downstream effects of those challenges and how nice it would be to be able to go around those and communicate more smoothly. So in order to do that, we're going to discuss the importance of having really on point, really tight business communications, then move into 3 pretty straightforward strategies that you can use starting today to help improve your communication so they get to be more streamlined and on point. And then we'll wrap up with next steps and resources and that sort of thing. Make sure again that you have your workbook handy because this is an interactive workshop and you will be using that or at least referring to it as we go through. And it's totally okay to pause the video to take a few moments when we come to those workbook moments and really apply yourself to that. So who am I to be sitting in front of you and giving you this information and ideas and recommendations? I think it's really important to understand, the source of credibility or authority that comes with somebody trying to help you, to teach you. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You're welcome to pause the video and read all these little tidbits about me, but suffice it to say, I've had my entire career, over 20 years, in the business communications, marketing communications, and tangential disciplines within a range of industries and kinds of companies in different geographic locations. So pretty well steeped in this. And then backing that up even further is my educational background is also in business and communications and that sort of thing. So you are in good hands. Well, we're not going to get too deep in the weeds of what is business communications or communications in general. That's beyond the scope of our training today. It is important to have at least a basic understanding of what it is. So communication is essentially the process and the systems, mechanisms of sharing ideas, information, or messages between or with an audience. And it can come in different forms, different modalities. So it could be written or verbal. It could be digital, it could be print, it could be in real life. I think the other really important thing to understand about communications in general is that you're always communicating, either directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously. You are always, always, always communicating. There's no getting away from it. So it behooves you to do it as well as you can so you can get the right message and intention out there and really connect with whoever you're trying to communicate with. So why does it matter that you are a good communicator and that the communications that you're putting out into the world are good, right? Well, effective communication is really essential to business success, and studies do support this. So you can, if you're so inspired, you can go and search on this topic and find that there's plenty of studies and research out there that backs this up. But basically, effective communication is needed to build relationships, to maintain relationships, to enhance your brand reputation, and to ultimately achieve your business goals. There are plenty of positive upstream and downstream, internal and external outcomes of being a good communicator and having good communication skills and good communication outputs like emails, blog posts, sales pages, that sort of thing. And on this slide, you can see just a bunch of other ways that having good communication is really powerful. So if you need to, feel free to pause the video for a moment and just really read through these and consider them. And then take a moment to think about, in your own context, in your own world, how would being a good communicator and having good communications benefit you and your business? And perhaps unsurprisingly, on the flip side, there are some serious costs of having bad communications, poor communication skills, really bad or inefficient communication deliverables or outputs. And these consequences tend to be negative. And again, there are plenty of studies that support the cost of having bad communications. And I'm sure you could think about, without searching too hard, you could find really good examples of this in the media. Just people who have terrible PR or, fallout from poor ad campaigns and that sort of thing. So take a moment to look through this list. It shows you several ways that bad communication can hurt your business or cost you. And take a moment to think about this in the context of your own business as well. And really quickly, if you are unsure about your communication skills level, I invite you to go grab this free resource. It's a self-quiz. It'll just take you a few moments and it'll give you an idea of what different skills mean, and you can score yourself on each one of those skills, and then it'll give you a score and a path forward for developing your skills. And the link is in the workbook and here on the screen. Okay, so we've come to our first workbook activity, and you are welcome to pause the video, do the workbook activity, and come back. And I recommend that you do that with this workbook activity as well as the upcoming ones that are later on in the training. So with this question, we're just going to start scratching the surface at understanding, for you, in your context, in your life, your business, what is the importance of being a good business communicator, having good communication, being efficient and effective with how you're communicating with your audiences. So what I'd like for you to do is to take a moment and look at question 1 in the workbook. And you can come back to it later if you just want to kind of lightly sketch in an answer, and that's totally fine. Okay, so here we are with strategy number 1. Prepare your pitches. So a pitch is basically a short and compelling statement about who you are, what you're about, what you're offering. One thing to understand, it's a distinction really is that your pitch is not the same as a bio. Bio is a little bit more chronological, autobiographical. It's a little bit more about who you are and what you've done to get to the point you're at. A pitch is very different. A pitch is essentially you're trying to convince somebody of something, bring them over to your side, win them over. And we'll get into that, how to do that, what makes a good pitch and all that in a second. But just to understand, you're really giving a statement that showcases who you are, how you can help somebody, what your value is. All right, so there's a lot of power in a well-prepared pitch. And I think there should be some emphasis put on the aspect of well-prepared, because when you have a scripted or practiced pitch, then you are more likely to be able to, you're more ready to be able to capitalize on opportunities that just come up. And when you do that, you're just going to have more confidence. You're going to be more at ease. People are going to be more receptive to you, and you'll be more receptive to them. And the other thing is that if you have a prepared pitch, you're more likely to use it. And what I always like to say is that if you don't ask somebody for something, the answer is always going to be no. But a pitch is kind of a way of asking. It's a way of putting your offer or your idea out there, and it's giving the other person a chance to say yes. Because people can't say yes to things they don't know about or that haven't been shared with them or that they don't understand. And so you may have heard of the saying, there's riches in the niches, but I think that there's also riches in your pitches. So think about that for a moment, how you could relate that to your own business, your own context, and understand how having a prepared pitch could really work for you. What opportunities could it open up? How can it help you take advantage of situations and really make the most out of opportunities that come your way? Because each person and each business and each situation is different, I recommend having a few different versions of your pitch readily available, so you can pick whichever one suits the situation at hand. And also understand that this is not something that is etched in stone. This is your pitch is a living statement, meaning it's going to change and evolve over time as you and your business and your needs and your audience and the whole ecosystem in which you're operating evolves. So here are a couple different really standard frameworks for pitches, and most people have some form of one or the other, maybe vaguely and nebulously created, but we're going to get into the details of them. So here we just have the framework for the I help statement and an example for you. And there is a copy of this in your workbook as well, so you can have that to work with and workshop your own version of this. I encourage you to give that a shot. You can pause the video and do that now, or come back to it after you're done with the presentation, the training. Another type of pitch structure is the elevator pitch, or the 10-second me, 60-second me, some number of second me statement. And these can be nice because they might be a little bit more flexible. They're a little bit looser in terms of what you can include, how you can combine the elements. And I also like having some of these readily available because they translate a little bit nicely to certain number of word counts. So if you ever have to write down a little statement or a little blurb about yourself, and you don't want to go full on biography, this is an option. You could use a 90-second me statement instead. And here's an example for you. This is also in your workbook. Again, pause the training now or come back to this later and really come up with a few versions of this for yourself. And I think that'll really serve you in the long run. Again, we are now at our second workbook activity, developing your pitches. You are welcome to do that now. Take a moment before you continue on in the training and just start sketching out an 𝐈𝐻 or 10-second me statement for yourself. And I would definitely revisit this after the training just so you can spend a little bit more time on it. But the basic idea is you want to have a few of these in rotation so that you can really craft a pitch statement that will resonate with whoever the audience is that you're presenting this pitch to. You want to be able to have them understand what you're talking about and give them a clear path forward. Let them understand what the next step is, where you're guiding them. All right, so now we are on to strategy number 2, and this is the idea of sharing the spotlight, or another way I like to think about it is participatory storytelling. And what this means is basically instead of just always being the source of the information and the content, bring others into the mix, bring others into your circle, put other people into the light, and diversify your content and your approach. And that can be really helpful. Again, there's another great strategy if you are introverted and find it hard to really be in front of people or always the center of attention. Just because you are the one posting or publishing content or information or whatever format the communication is being done in doesn't mean you have to be the origination point of that content or information. You can leverage the insights, the information, and so on from other people, from other sources. And when you do that, you're creating an authentic narrative that really propels people toward whatever your objective is. And that's because those other people end up having some skin in the game. They can see themselves reflected in the content or communication. They can understand how they're involved, what their role is, what part do they play in the overall scenario that you're presenting. And I really like this idea of shared spotlight or participatory storytelling because it can really help you create and nurture true connections. It's a way to get real-time information and feedback from your audience. It's a way to hear directly from the source instead of secondhand or hearsay. And it lets you tap into a broader wealth of knowledge, creativity, inspiration. And this can be done in all kinds of ways. So just, as some examples, you could do some behind the scenes exposés of a launch you've done and involved your team members that helped you do the launch. You can get user-generated content on social media. You can do collaborative events with other small business owners, and that could be something like a workshop, a bundle. It can take really so many different formats, but the best thing to do is find the mix that aligns with what you and your business need and what really rings true with your audience. And then you're going to have to reevaluate and adjust your plan, how you actually execute upon this as time goes by, because your needs and your customers' needs will shift over time. There are all kinds of techniques that you can use to share the spotlight or employ participatory storytelling. There's a bunch of them listed here. We've already mentioned a couple in the previous slide. The goal is to go from monologues to dialogues or conversations, to go from a one-directional broadcasting to interaction and engagement. And again, you need to find the mix that aligns with your needs and your customers or your audience's needs and reevaluate that over time. trial and error is a completely legitimate approach to figuring that out. And, you shouldn't be afraid of that. That's the only way you're going to figure out what works and, innovate upon the process. Just remember to keep your audience at the center of what you're doing so that your efforts are effective. Whatever techniques you're using, there's always ways to power that up, right? To amplify and improve. And so this slide and the next slide just give you some ideas for how to do that. Things that you can do to put more pop in your message, more bang for your communications buck, so to speak. And again, you're going to have to do some trial and error, some experimenting, see what resonates with you and your audience, what makes sense given your workflows and the business that you're in and where your audience is. But just to give you an example of how this might come into play, what it might look like, for on-the-go moms who are always really busy, bite-sized audio might be a better approach than some really long multimedia course, right? Or for a younger audience that spends probably 90% of their time on their phones consuming content, maybe things like big bloated infographics that are really hard to see on a small screen are not the best option. So it's just the idea is to just make sure that how you're presenting your message fits who you're trying to present to and what the content is. And it is possible to get all those stars to align, but it might take you a few tries to get it to work out right. And as you can see, here are some additional ways to really inject some more power into your storytelling, whatever approach or techniques you're using. Again, make sure that whatever you're doing aligns with your needs and your audience's needs. One thing I do want to really call out on this slide is this idea of not oversharing. And I say this for two reasons. One, I think that it puts you in a position of vulnerability. There's unfortunately a lot of people out there with bad intentions, and they can take things like the information you provide about your children or your medical scenario and use that in nefarious ways. And the other reason I say that is that a lot of times, in my opinion, communicators often they put in all kinds of long, drawn-out stories, and that's just too much information. We're awash in content, awash in things to read and consume. So it really can detract from your trying to convey information and whatever your message is and get somebody to do something. If your email that you're sending out is 5 screens long, chances are the busy business person is not going to read it all and they're just going to delete it. Instead, some brevity with a quick call to action might be a better approach. Okay, on to our next workbook activity. We're going to take a moment for you to think about how you use storytelling, shared storytelling in your own business. What techniques do you use to do participatory storytelling or to share the spotlight? What are some other techniques that maybe you haven't tried before that might be interesting or that kind of pique your interest and curiosity? And start thinking about those. You can write that down in the workbook. Again, feel free to just start loosely sketching it out now and then come back to that when you have a time to really sit and have a think on it. Okay, this brings us to our last strategy today, which is practice makes perfect-ish. And the idea here is that by way of planning, prepping, rehearsing, whatever you want to call it, you are positioning yourself to be more successful. And why is this? It's just because by doing this practice, by planning and prepping, rehearsing, and proofs of concepts and repetition, you are increasing your awareness of your topic, you're increasing your awareness of your your and your audience's needs. You are increasing your familiarity with your content, the information that you're communicating, and you are putting yourself in a position to be more ready to share the information and to handle what's next, the downstream steps, and you're also going to be more ready to anticipate and address any kinds of questions, concerns, or objections that you might get from your audience. So you'll be in a much more solid footing to share what you need to share and then take next steps. And it's really important to understand that most people are not born with really good communication skills. Um, just like you don't come out of the womb knowing how to do a slam dunk. That's something you train for. You do drills, you practice, and eventually you're able to make slam dunks. It's the same kind of thing. Communication skills are 99% acquired through the efforts of whoever wants to acquire those skills. So, practice and develop your skills. So when you practice, there's a lot of benefit that you can derive from that. And even though the strategy is called practice makes perfect-ish, the goal isn't necessarily perfection, it's progress. It's that idea of improvement. It's the idea of getting closer to your idealized version of whatever you're trying to accomplish or become. And so when you practice, when you rehearse, you are really able to achieve a lot of that improvement. And it's very incremental, but it's even small incremental changes can be really meaningful and can be really impactful. They can yield a lot of benefit for your business, and that benefit could be, increased confidence, greater sales, more conversions. You know, Faster processes, trying to, do things like create your launch plans or what have you. And when you practice your communications and your communication skills, you increase your familiarity with whatever you're trying to communicate. So your content, your message. You are able to familiarize yourself with the pacing of what you're trying to communicate. You can reduce errors, you can reduce your reliance on notes, so you can be more present with your audience when you're presenting. And like I said earlier, it can help you anticipate the bottlenecks or roadblocks or problems that your audience may have so that you can handle those in advance. There are all different kinds of ways that you can practice, and I encourage you to get creative. Obviously, it's going to be really situationally dependent. Not all of these different methods are going to work in all circumstances. I think it's really good to have kind of your little go-to list of ways to practice that feel most comfortable or most effective for you, and you're going to have to just choose the methods that work best for you. And that, again, like everything else, might evolve over time and change given what it is that you're trying to practice, what skill you're trying to practice. Obviously, writing things down might not work really great if your goal is to improve your speaking capabilities, just as an example. But, have fun with this. Make it something that you enjoy so that you actually do it. Okay, our last workbook activity. We're going to take a few moments to think about some important business communication that you've got coming up, or event in your business you've got coming up that you want to communicate with your audience about. So that could be maybe you have a webinar coming up or some kind of launch, an email newsletter, a blog post you want to publish. It could be really anything like that. And with that in mind, jot down 5 to 10 talking points or idea points or bullets about key details, takeaways, etc., related to that event or communications that you have coming up. And the idea here is to just start getting your brain thinking in terms of visualizing that communication or that event, and how you need to get all those little pieces lined up, created and lined up, to really effectively and efficiently share that information, that message out with your audience. And then if you have some spare moments, you can continue on and really just brainstorm out some ways that you could practice, maybe different techniques, or for different kinds of skills or deliverables related to that business communication, that event that you've got coming up. All right, well, that brings us to the end today. So what did we talk about? Well, we talked about the fact that you are always, always, always communicating, whether directly or indirectly, intentionally or otherwise, and that communication is really important to helping your business be successful. Communication is what gets your message across to your audiences, and then therefore helps drive them to whatever actions or viewpoints you want them to have. There are countless different ways to communicate in and about your business, and similarly, there's infinite ways you can always improve upon that, and that's going to evolve over time based on your needs, your business's needs, your audience's needs, and the environment in which you're operating your business. I've shared a few strategies today, and this is really just barely scratching the surface. There's countless strategies you can use in your business to really work towards being more effective and efficient in your communications. And because of that, you really have limitless opportunities to grow your knowledge and develop your skills. And you can do a little bit every day. Small and incremental changes are still changes, and those are still little steps towards progress. And they're learned things. They're not things that you're born with. So everybody has the capacity to expand their skills and knowledge and improve. And while the three strategies that I shared with you today, the well-prepared pitch, the shared spotlight, and the practice makes perfect-ish, are just the jumping off point. Like I mentioned, there's millions of other strategies you can pull into play. The underlying idea is there's still value. There's still value to making sure that you employ different strategies to improve your business communications. And doing so, you can help yourself save time and money and energy in your business, so you're running more in a more streamlined way. You will be able to connect more meaningfully and more authentically with your audience and your stakeholders. You'll help build yourself a more solid reputation and be more known as a person of authority within the space that you're operating in. You'll be able to grow your confidence and your skill set, which will help make you a more valuable person, more seen more as an expert in your field. And it positions you to be able to really take advantage of opportunities that come up, and opportunities will present themselves more when you're a better communicator, because people will be more attracted to you and working with you. And ultimately downstream, this can all translate into things like more sales, higher average order value with your customers, maybe more followers on social, more people approaching you to do guest spots on their podcast or guest blogging, smoother business operations, lower turnover of your team members, just basically fewer wasted resources, and getting more results out of your business, whatever that translates to for your particular situation. But you're only going to get these benefits if you take action. You have to implement the strategies to be able to harness their power. So speaking of that, let's move on to next steps. All right, so nothing happens or changes if you don't take action, if you don't implement. So what I recommend for next steps is to start with the workbook. Take a few minutes to go through that. They're guided first steps. It will help you gain some direction and some frameworks for thinking about how you want to do business communications, what makes sense with your business, your audience. And it'll help you brainstorm ideas, which can be really great for an eternal source of creativity and inspiration. And then go out and actually practice your communication skills. Try out some of those things that you've been brainstorming, whether they're new techniques or new approaches to old techniques. You'll start to create some muscle memory, and it'll become easier and more integrated into the way you do business over time. It'll get a lot easier. And I think that sharing your progress or sharing your challenges can be really helpful, whether that's in a Facebook group or you have, a business buddy that you check in with periodically. Accountability can help reinforce the skills that you're learning, and it can also help really reinforce your commitment to being a better communicator and to putting better communications out about your business or within your business, so that you can really start reaping some of those effects. And lastly, I think that it's really important to periodically reassess your communications needs for your business based on, your business is always going to be changing, your audience can be changing, the environment in which you're doing business can change, technology changes over time. So there's always opportunities to do something new and different, and alongside that, to continuously improve how you're operating in your business. And therefore, there's, unbound opportunity to or potential for improving the results of your business as a result of these efforts that you take. And just the idea of don't watch this presentation and then file it away in the done column, right? Do something with it. There's plenty of resources in the workbook, and you are definitely welcome to join the SB Success Factor Facebook group to post your challenges and progress as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I think it's really awesome and commendable that you are interested in growing your skills and becoming a better communicator and having better communications within and about your business. As a small business person, I totally understand that you're busy doing all the things. So that you took the time, energy, and mental bandwidth to be here today is just awesome. I really commend you for that. There are plenty of ways that you can stay in touch. You're welcome to join the SB Success Factor Facebook group. That's a great place to post if you have questions, comments, need help, that sort of thing. I also invite you to hop on the newsletter. Usually that's, I usually email twice a week, once or twice a week. Tuesdays are a newsletter that contain informational, educational content, and usually a roundup of like events and things that are going on. I also use the email list to share out if I'm hosting a bundle and looking for contributors for that. There's events going on, that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely join the ranks. Stay in touch.